Hi my loves, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful piece. Do subscribe, share to friends, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Our neck width, 1 inch down for our shoulder slope. From there we're going to mark our armhole depth, okay? Then our shoulder measurements horizontally here. So it connects to your shoulder slope from your neck width, and this is what I have. Now from here, now divide your armhole measurements into 2 to get the midpoints. And this is the midpoint, okay? So I'm also going to place my shoulder measurements here, 8. Then from there I'll come in by half an inch. I'll connect this to my shoulder slope. Then from there I'm going to make a curve into my chest line. The next point now is we're going to mark our under bust, our bust line. So my bust line is 9.5 inches. My under bust is 12.5 inches. And I'm going to make a rule across that point. Now the next thing to do is to mark your nipple to nipple measurement. I have 3.75 for my nipple to nipple measurements. I'll mark it on my bust line, under bust and half length. I'll go ahead and connect these 3 points using the rule. Now from the inwards of this line we had, with these are nipple to nipple measurements, I'm going to mark 1 inch on my bust line, under bust, and on my half length. Then outward, I'm going to mark 1.25 inches on the under bust and on the half length. I'll connect them using a rule. And this is what we have. Now, using the curved part of this rule, I'll connect to my bust line. And this is what we have, okay? So now, the next thing to do is we're going to divide our shoulder slope into 2 to get the midpoint. Having done that, now I'll connect to my bust line. And this is what I have. The next thing to do now is to determine where our suits, because we're going to be having a Queen Anne neckline. Alright, so divide what you have on your under bust and your bust line. I have 3. When I divide it into 2, I'll be having 1.5 inches. So from my chest line, I'm going to be coming up by half of this. That is the difference between my bust line and under bust. You can decide to increase it depending on how deep or open you want yours to be. Alright, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to be tightening my over bust. To do this, I'm going to mark 0.75 inches on both sides of this new chest line I have here. Connect it to my bust line. And this is what I have. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to be working on is the sweethearts and the Queen Anne neckline. So guys, the next thing we're going to be working on now is the Queen Anne neckline. To do this now, I'm going to be coming down to this point, which is here, and I'm going to come in by, from this point I'm going to go in by 1.5 inches. You can decide to work with 1 inch, you can decide to work with 1. So I'm going to be working with 1.5 inches, and this is where I have is here. So from my neck width, which is here, I'm going to be connecting to this point I have here. And this is what we have, okay? Now the next step now is to create our curve inwards towards this area. To do this now, we're going to be making a curve from this point now to our bust line here. So I'm going to be using this curved part of my root to do this. And this is what we have. We have gone ahead to create that Queen Anne neckline. Alright. Now the next thing to do is to add back all this we have into our pattern paper. So first step is here. We have 1.5 inches. We're going to be adding it back to our pattern paper. So here now I'm going to add 1.5 inches. Here I'm going to measure what I have here. I have 0.75 inches, and I'm going to insert my actual body measurements on my chest line. Then whatever I have here, this point that is going off, I'll add it back to my pattern paper, plus 1 inch stitching allowance. I'll add it back to my pattern paper. Okay guys, so the next thing to do now is to impute our body measurement. So for my bust, I'm gonna ahead to do that. Then I'll do the same thing for my waist measurement. Alright, so having done this now, we're going to go back to adding up in all these allowances that we're going to remove, because this is going off. So we have 1.5 inches here. We'll go ahead to add it back to our pattern paper. Here we have 0.75 inches. You add it back to your pattern paper. On the waist, we have 2.25 inches. We're going to be adding it back to our pattern paper. Alright, now we're going to connect them together. And this is what we have. Now, here now we have 1.5 inches. We're going to be making from here, we're going to connect to that point. Alright, and this is what we have. So at this point now, we're entitled to retrace our curve here. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do now is
the next point now is on the shoulder line. We're going to be adding a few inches to extend our sleeve.
It's going to be
a little. So we're going to add about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Depends on how wide your board you want your sleeve. So I'm going to work with 1.5 inches. I'll go ahead to extend it down to the curved part of our bustier, that is the armhole area. Okay, then I added that.
So I'll go ahead to retrace my shoulder. And this is what I have for my shoulder. So the next thing to do now is to cut out this piece.
The next thing I went ahead to do was to extend my bust measurement by a few inches and connected it back to my waist. That is to balance up with the curved part of my dress. Then I went ahead to cut out my pattern paper. Okay.
So the next thing to do now is to transfer these pieces to our pattern paper and to our fabric. So guys, next we're going ahead now to cut out is our back piece. Okay, so I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements, which is 8 inches. And note that we added extra 1.5 inches to our front piece, so I'm going to be marking it here too. Please, I left 1.5 inches for my neck width, for my zipper allowance. I'll mark 3 inches on this shoulder line for my neck width. Then at the end of the shoulder, I'll mark 1 inch shoulder slope, connect it to the neck width. And this is what I have. The next thing to do now is from here, I'm going to come down to 7.5, which is my chest line. So at this point, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements. Then I will mark the 9.5 inches I have. I'll connect this in a straight row. Then I'm going to make a slight curve inwards. Okay. Now for our back neckline, I'm going to be working with 2 inches deep. I'll connect it to my neck width. Then from my shoulder line, I'm going to mark my half inch, which is my half length, which is 16 inches. Here now, I will put my waist measurements plus 2 inches seam allowance. Okay. Now I'm going to connect to the chest line, and this is what I have. So I'll go ahead to cut this piece off. The next thing to do is to cut out a lining piece for this, the bust areas, that is the front part of our dress. Now, because I'm going to be attaching a ready-made bra cup, that is why I used an S-stay, or this a gum stay. You can use an S-stay. Preferably, please use an S-stay for yours. Okay, so now I'll go ahead to join these pieces, that is the bra cups, together. That is the breast cups together. All right. So guys, at this point now, I'm gonna have to join my cup, that is my bustier pieces together, and this is what I have. All right. The same thing I did for my lining piece, and this is my lining piece. Now I'm going to be introducing my ready-made bra cup, which I'm going to be attaching on my lining pieces. Okay. So what I have to do now is I'm going to first of all place this my bra cup. So I'm going to fold it in, go ahead and shape it. Okay, first of all. So guys, at this point now, I'm gonna have to shape my bra cup, and this is what I have. Okay, so first of all, I am placing it on my fabric, that is on the main fabric, to give me a trace line. Then I'm going to place my lining piece on it, and this is what I have. Okay, so now this has given me a clue on how to place it. Please note that your bra cup is going to kick off from your under bust measurements. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch here, that is to hold it down. I'm running the stitch on the lining, the cup and the lining together. I'm not attaching it to the material, the fabric. I'm attaching it on the lining piece. Okay, so loves, the next thing we're going to be trying out now is our upper part, or the bustier, with a lining piece. I'm already gonna head to attach my ready-made bra cup, and this is what I have. Okay, so I'm going to place it on top this way, but before then we have to attach this neck area of ours. All right, so you're going to leave it 1/2 inch before the end point of your bust here. The reason is you're going to be closing up this area, that is the armhole area is going to be closed up. Okay, so go ahead and run a stitch on it. That's what I'm going to do. So this is what we have. I'm done running a stitch on it. I ran the stitch on the armhole area, okay, and the upper part. Now I'm going to notch this center here, then go ahead and turn it out. And this is what we have. This is what the upper part of our dress. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do now is you're going to be joining the skirt part of our front to this upper piece of ours. Right, so go ahead and join the skirt part of it.